nearing the size of the African GDP. It must be pointed out that even this US $2.7 trillion is a recent development because the African economies are said to be growing at a fast rate compared to others in the world. Otherwise, Africa's GDP was only 500 billion some few years ago. However, much of that growth may be quantitative, not qualitative, producing more and more raw materials. Sorry, I had jumped that page in the speech. Therefore, as I conclude, I was beginning to ask the question, if Africa gets more money from value-added products of its raw materials, will it not be better for the whole world? Because if you hear the per capita consumption of electricity in Uganda is 300. In the USA, it is 12,000. Why are the Ugandans not using electricity? Because, first of all, in the past it was not there. But even when it's there, they may not be able to afford it. But if they get income, because they are getting more money from their coffee, getting more money from their iron ore, getting more money from their copper, they will be able to buy electricity, and we shall be able to generate more electricity. Where will the turbines for generating that electricity be coming from? Uganda is not making turbines yet. We shall have to buy them from those people. So therefore, that's why I was asking, the question was, how can greed obstruct rationality to such an extent? Why can't people see what is good for all of us? In conclusion, I propose to say that global affluence will benefit everybody. Down with imperialism, down with the parasitism, long live the win-win strategy. With these not so few words, I declare the conference open. Thank you very much.
You've paused. Thank you once again. With your permission, Excellency, we're now going to go into a session of brief statements from their Excellencies and heads of delegations. We'll have a statement from His Excellency Dr. Girma, the Chairman of the Inter-African COF Organization. Your Excellency, we have the Inter-African COF Organization where the G-25 meet to share experience and collectively plan to act together. Your Excellency, you're welcome.
Your Excellency, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency Dr. Philips Dor Mapango, Vice President of United Republic of Tanzania, Your Excellency Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Vice President of Uganda, Your Excellency Ambassador Joseph Asako, AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment, Honorable Ministers, Ambassadors, representatives of development partners, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, all protocols observed. On behalf of member states of the Inter-African Coffee Organization and the Ministry of Agriculture of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, I would like to convey our appreciation and gratitude to His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni and his government for hosting the second G-25 African Coffee Summit here in Kampala under the theme Transformation of the African Coffee Sector through Value Addition. I would also like to thank the head of states, governments, ministers, and distinguished delegates for your presence here today. This is a testament to solidarity and commitment to pursue our common goal to find solutions for the development of the African coffee sector. For centuries, coffee has been a source of inspiration, a catalyst for conversation, and a symbol of hospitality. Moreover, it has been a valuable economic commodity that supports the livelihoods of millions in our continent. The G25 African Coffee Summit was created on 18 November 2021 under the auspices of the Inter-African Coffee Organization to re-evaluate the overall performance of the coffee sector in Africa. Following the first G25 African Coffee Summit held in Nairobi last year, some progresses have been registered, though works are ongoing. Some of those instances of ongoing works are: 1, the Nairobi Declaration has been submitted to the African Union Commission and is waiting to be adopted by the AU Special Technical Committee for presentation to the AU Heads of State Assembly for approval and inclusion in the AU Agenda 2063. 2, the African Continental Free Trade Area and the African Organization for Standardization have set up committees to promote value addition and harmonize coffee standards that are required for interregional Africa trade, and the new IACO agreement is in its final phase for ratification, which is expected to bring together all the African coffee producers, consumer states, and the private sector under a unified platform. 3rd, several coffee houses and training institutes have been opened in member states together with cupping sessions, barista championships, which have led to more coffee awareness and job opportunities for youth. I would like to appreciate the work being done by the Secretariat and commend the leaders of the G25 member states for their commitment to come together to find common grounds on the regional challenge facing the African coffee sector. Excellencies, Africa now has the political will and legal instruments, such as the historical African Continental Free Trade Area, which is the world's largest free trade area, bringing together the 55 countries of the African Union and 8 regional economic communities. In addition, AU's flagship project in the African Union Agenda 2063, aimed at building transport infrastructure, air and rail, combined with the Nairobi Declaration that demanded the inclusion of coffee as a strategic crop in the AU's Agenda 2063, are expected to open a lot of opportunities for the development and empowerment of youth and women across the value chain. Aside from the fact that Africa is the birthplace for coffee, Robusta coffee in Uganda and Arabica coffee in Ethiopia, the livelihood of at least 60 million people across the continent, it only accounts for 12% of the world's coffee production. There is also huge inequality in the value chain, as it is already indicated by His Excellency the President, which could be explained by the fact that Africa obtained only 0.6% out of the total value chain globally generated in 2026. One of the reasons for the inequality is that 99% of the value chain of coffee produced on the African continent is being captured abroad. Africa is operating at the low end of the supply chain as a green bean exporter. This is due to a number of factors that include lack of investment in the processing plants, technology, and low level of coffee consumption culture, among others. Promisingly, over the last 2 decades, domestic consumption has been an increasing trend in the continent. However, sadly, this demand has been served predominantly through the importation of processed coffee from abroad. This is optimal for Africa because it is increasing the import bill and making coffee consumption within Africa more expensive. Excellencies, there are 2 factors inhibiting the full implementation of the Inter-African Continental Free Trade Agreement, namely infrastructure and lack of investment in the value addition. For instance, Nigeria, with a population of 221 million, almost similar to Brazil, has a huge untapped market and could serve due to lack of adequate infrastructure. Coffee export to Nigeria by ship can take maybe more than 7 months. Another prime example in South Africa is South Africa, which has huge potential for African coffee, but it imports primarily from Brazil and Europe. This is a trend in many of our African countries facing logistical and infrastructural barriers. Currently, it is quicker and easier for our producers to ship coffee to Europe, but sadly at a very cheap price. Excellencies, allow me to underscore the following key areas that need addressing to overcome some of these barriers. 1, there is a need for consensus from African leaders to support the adoption of coffee as a strategic crop in the AU's Agricultural Agenda 2063 as the next meeting 24. 2, to capture the 99% of value addition, the G-25 African producing countries need a strategy to create public-private partnerships to fund and support investment in value addition through vocational trainings for the youth and women. 3, Africa has huge potential to increase production drastically. There are lessons to be learned and scaled up from countries that have successfully implemented their national initiatives and boosted production, like what is mentioned in Uganda by His Excellency the President. As part of our motto, Africa Solutions to Africa Problems, we have now enough experience and best practices that can be scaled up and shared with one another without going to other continents. 4, it is important that we harmonize the African Continental Free Trade Agreement framework in collaboration with the African Standard Organization and the African Union Digital Platform. Lastly, the flagship projects of the African Agenda 2063, such as the Single African Air Transport Market, this is critical to accessing new markets and facilitating the African coffee producers to trade seamlessly within the continent. Excellencies, as the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, we remain optimistic on the future growth of the coffee industry. There are abundant opportunities that need to be unlocked in Africa. We have estimated at 700 million below the age of 30 years. Unemployment is driving our youth to take dangerous journeys to migrate to Europe, when we have huge potential to make Africa self-sufficient and create employment for the youth and empower women. Once again, I congratulate His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and all leaders gathered here today for their commitment to an integrated Africa for equitable and sustainable development. I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Organization will continue to receive more brief statements. Her Excellency Saleh Work Zewedi, the President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Madam Vice President of Uganda, Your Excellency, my sister, Excellency, the Vice President of Tanzania, Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, my brother Musalia Mudavadi, the Chairman of the Inter-African Coffee Organization and Minister of Agriculture of Ethiopia, distinguished participants, my sister, the African Union Commissioner, Joseph Asako, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by extending my heartfelt gratitude to the government and the people of Uganda for their warm welcome and well-known hospitality accorded to me and to my delegation since our arrival in Kampala. I'm here today because we strongly believe that our in-person presence and participation at this important summit convened by Uganda provide an opportunity to keep and accelerate the momentum and is unique deliberate on the many challenges facing the coffee sector in Africa. Solutions. I'm here also because we believe, really strongly believe, in collective action for us to occupy our rightful space in the global market. Despite being one of the most traded commodities globally, and consumed virtually by people of all cultures and religions around the globe, coffee didn't receive the proper attention it deserves compared to even some less traded commodities. While this is partly due to the weak bargaining power of the very producers, the poor farmers, it's in part due to the lack of strong organizations committed to work on behalf and for the benefit of the producers and exporters. Filling these serious gaps should be the aim and priority of the Inter-African Coffee Organization. I believe this second G-25 summit will encourage such a mandate. The poor farmers sweat to produce and supply best quality coffee to the international market. But it is the traders who decide the international coffee price in the absence of the producers or their rightful representation. The very producers are price takers and remain at the receiving end throughout the market chain. We all must work to end this market unfairness together. With just simple value addition, it's possible to increase the benefit of smallholder farmers and enable them to get fair share of their efforts. It is important to promote African coffee at the global market and invest in international trading companies to support the producing farmers technically and financially. Although 25 countries of Africa produce coffee and 60% of their people's livelihood depend on this production, their contribution to the international market in value terms is really insignificant. Ethiopia, it's not just the origin place of Arabica, as is Uganda for Robusta. It is the largest, best quality organic Arabica coffee producer and exporter in Africa, and among the top. With a number of distinct varieties and unique characteristics, coffee is the most consumed and colorfully celebrated commodity in Ethiopia, with, of course, unique coffee making process. Coffee accounts the largest part of Ethiopia's export earnings of agricultural products and employs millions of direct and indirect jobs. Ethiopia has a potential of more than 1.2 million hectares of land for coffee growing, out of which more than been covered by coffee trees. To encourage investments in coffee, provides investors income tax exemption of up to .
Step into the future of African coffee at the second G-25 Africa Coffee Summit hosted by Uganda. The summit will be held at Speak Resort Nyonyo from the 8th to the 10th of August 2023. Heads of state from Africa's 25 coffee growing nations and coffee value chain actors will delve into the theme Transforming the African Coffee Sector through Value Addition. The summit is a defining moment for Africa's coffee growing nations. It's time to listen, innovate and invest in Africa's coffee future. Ignite the potential of African coffee. Organized by the Government of Uganda through the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries and Uganda Coffee Development Authority in collaboration with the Inter-African Coffee Organization. Step into the future of African coffee at the second G-25 Africa Coffee Summit hosted by Uganda. The summit will be held at Speak Resort Munyonyo from the 8th to the 10th of August 2023. Heads of state from Africa's 25 coffee growing nations and coffee value chain actors will delve into the theme Transforming the African Coffee Sector through Value Addition. The summit is a defining moment for Africa's coffee growing nations. It's time to listen, innovate and invest in Africa's coffee future. Ignite the potential of African coffee. Organized by the Government of Uganda through the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries and Uganda Coffee Development Authority in collaboration with the Inter-African Coffee Organization. Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
The biggest, the baddest East African Christian Marathon is here. Come participate at the East African Christian Marathon for a prayer run on the 13th of August 2023 at the Lugogo Hockey Grounds. Come represent your family at the prayer run and run for a good cause to build the first call center which will be East Africa's virtual listener. Come for the prayer run alongside your pastors, leaders, representatives from Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, South Sudan, and of course Uganda. Participate with Honorable Captain Mike Mukula, who is the chief runner and patron. Do not miss out on this opportunity. Make your donation for your kid now from 20,000, 30,000 and 100,000 Uganda shillings, because runs change the world. For more details, call 0781 885 055 or visit our website at www.eastafricachristianmarathon.org. Proudly sponsored by PKF, UBC, Venro Health, Aquafina, and Moving Preacher.
Upgrade your lifestyle with the all-new entry-loaded Chillax voice bundles. Now, call all networks in Uganda with Chillax voice bundles. Call all networks, no expiry, no worries. Dial *100 *1# and select call all networks. Airtel, a reason to imagine.
Corporate Games is back bigger and better. Our next outing is on the 13th of August 2023 at Dove Stadium along Portbell Road. Entrance is free and games will run from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Be part of the Corporate Games family and experience a number of benefits like annual participation, team building, free exhibition, branding opportunities, and media coverage. For more information, contact us on 0700339048 or 0782193612. Corporate Games, inspiring corporates through sports.
The President of the United Republic of Tanzania.
Step into the future of African coffee at the second G-25 Africa Coffee Summit hosted by Uganda. The summit will be held at Speak Resort Munyonyo from the 8th to the 10th of August 2023. Heads of state from Africa's 25 coffee-growing nations and coffee value chain actors will delve into the theme, Transforming the African Coffee Sector Through Value Addition. The summit is a defining moment for Africa's coffee-growing nations. It's time to listen, innovate, and invest in Africa's coffee future. Ignite the potential of African coffee. Organized by the Government of Uganda through the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries and Uganda Coffee Development Authority in collaboration with the Inter-African Coffee Organization.
Pick of the day.
Declaration and welcome the theme for the 2023 summit, which says transforming the African coffee sector through value addition. Indeed, it encapsulates well the very essence of our journey towards a thriving coffee industry. Excellencies, nearly half of African countries grow coffee, and for some of us, it constitutes a major source of our foreign exchange earnings and among the vital contributors of our GDP. Given this importance and our enormous endowment of vast arable land, favorable climate, and demographic dividend of our youth labor, it is timely that we have the 2023 G25 summit, and I want to underscore that we should use this platform to unanimously push for a declaration of coffee as a strategic commodity in harmony with the AU Agenda 2063, promote value addition, agree on how to expand regional coffee trade, and discuss remedial measures to underlying risks to this important cash crop. Excellencies, according to the World Bank's Commodity Market Outlook reports, world coffee prices maintained a long-term positive trend, with the price of Arabica coffee increasing more than twofold from an average of $2 per kilogram in 2001, 2002 to $5 in 2022-23. And similarly, the price of Robusta coffee more than tripled from $0.7 per kilogram in 2001, 2002 to $2.4 per kilogram in 2022-23. Such developments in coffee prices culminated into $466 billion global traded value in 2021, with Africa earning only 0.5% of the traded value. Despite the price advantage over the past 20 years, Africa remained at the tail end, and it accounts for a mere 12% of the world's production, and the trend in the region has been steadily declining. And this appeals for a groundbreaking solution to reverse the pattern and take actions to unlock the untapped potential of the coffee industry, capitalizing on the rising world prices and our expanding regional market of nearly 1.4 billion people. Excellencies, in Tanzania, we have continued to devise new measures aimed at consolidating successes in revamping the coffee industry. So, for example, the government has continued to increase the agricultural budget for 3 consecutive fiscal years to, among others, roll out fertilizer subsidy program and upscale supply and distribution of high-yield Arabica coffee seedlings free of charge through the Tanzania Coffee Board and the Tanzania Coffee Research Institute. The target is to raise and distribute 20 million seedlings per annum. In 2022-23, 17.8 million seedlings have been distributed so far. Other interventions encompass strengthening of the coffee research and development through the Tanzania Coffee Research Institute, and due to effects of climate changes which have had detrimental effects in coffee production, such as increased incidences of pests and diseases, erratic rainfall which made some areas unsuitable for coffee production. Tanzania has taken steps to mitigate the situation by developing coffee varieties which are drought resistant. We do hope that these varieties will be released in the coming few years after assessment trials in the field are completed. We have also scaled up extension services through local government in collaboration with cooperatives and introduction of a 1-year certificate course in coffee quality and trade at the Moshi Cooperative University to address the shortage of extension officers. And on markets, we have introduced zonal coffee auctions such that agricultural marketing cooperatives that used to be the sole buyers are now competing with other market players, and prices are benchmarked to world prices. Excellencies, on involvement of women and youth in the coffee value chain, Tanzania has made some steps in mainstreaming gender, and the efforts include establishment of the Tanzania Women in Coffee Association, which brings together women in the coffee value chain and encourages and empowers them to grow their business in the coffee value chain. In addition, the government has established a program to train the youth in the coffee quality and trading for the purpose of building their capacity to participate in activities along the coffee value chain and fill the gap of skilled personnel in the Tanzania coffee subsector. Excellencies, in tackling financial constraints, we have recapitalized the Tanzania Agricultural Development Bank. and in collaboration with commercial banks, we have re-established credit and export guarantee schemes to address shortfalls in collateral and introduce a facility at the Bank of Tanzania to support affordable agricultural financing at interest rates not exceeding 9%. Some of the achievements from the above interventions include increased coffee production by 19% from 66.5 thousand tons in 2018-19 to 82.5 thousand tons in 2022-23. Foreign exchange earnings from coffee exports nearly doubled from $235.6 million in 2022-23 compared with $123.2 million in 2018-19. Coffee cultivated area increased from 218,966 hectares in 2018-19 to 265,000 hectares in 22-23. Excellencies, as we convene here today, let us renew our commitment to the transformation of African coffee. First, let us embrace value addition as our guiding principle. And I therefore call upon governments and the private sector to direct more energy and resources to acquire modern coffee processing facilities, roasteries, and quality packaging. Second, I urge our farmers to increasingly adopt eco-friendly farming methods to ensure that our coffee industry leaves a positive footprint on both the environment and the people it touches. And third, I wish to remind the Secretariat of the Inter-African Coffee Organization to fast-track development of the Africa Coffee Center of Excellence in Tanzania, as already agreed. And I assure you that the Tanzania government will provide all the required support. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I'm pleased to note that Tanzania will be hosting the third G-25 African Coffee Summit next year, 2024. And in that regard, on behalf of President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, I wish to warmly welcome you to Tanzania for our next summit and continue with our journey to transform the coffee subsector. Together we can. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Excellency. A round of applause. We look forward to meeting you in Tanzania next year. Excellency Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya.
Your Excellency, Honorable Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellency's Head of State and Government, the Chairman of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I first take this opportunity to sincerely thank you, Your Excellency, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, for hosting this very important summit. Equally, let me convey the salutations and solidarity of His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto to you and to the people of Uganda. It is gratifying and encouraging that the African community gathers here in Kampala to reflect on and celebrate the Africa coffee sector. Indeed, this summit is an affirmation of our collective commitment to support transformative reforms in our coffee sector. As African leaders, we also laud and commend initiatives under the Inter-African Coffee Organization of transforming the African coffee sector through value addition, a theme that resonates well with our aspirations. It is on this firm commitment that Kenya hosted the first G-25 African Coffee Summit in Nairobi from 25th to 27th May 2022, which was attended by 41 African countries. During the Nairobi Summit, the African coffee producing countries made the following declarations on the Africa coffee sector. First, to include coffee among the strategic agricultural commodities. This will enable the continent to identify, formulate and drive the implementation of policies and solutions for higher returns in the sector. Second, to support production and research, enhance transparency and traceability of origins, encourage youth employment and empowerment of women, allocate more land for coffee production, incentivize farmers, support coffee research, and offer technical assistance to farmers. Third, to enhance access to finance through government-backed schemes, African Coffee Facility Fund, and support for the African Export-Import Bank, AfriExim, the African Development Bank, and the African Union. And fourth, to address value addition and domestic consumption by opening up domestic markets and share knowledge on the health benefits of coffee and investment in value addition. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, coffee is an important export commodity for many African countries and has the potential of unlocking the continent's prosperity, foster inclusive growth, boost economic growth, and lead to rapid transformation of the continent. Your Excellency, let me echo some of your statistics. African coffee accounts for about 12% of the world's coffee production, making it the second largest, most traded commodity in Africa after oil. In the year 2021-2022, for example, Africa's coffee production registered a dismal performance of 19.27 million bags of coffee compared to a global production of 167.2 million bags in the same period. This is a paltry 11.5% against a potential of 40% attributable to Africa's comparative advantage in land acreage, rainfall, and fertile soils. As a continent, we must develop appropriate strategies to reverse this negative trend and reclaim our position on the global coffee platform. Ladies and gentlemen, domestic consumption of African coffee remains dismal. Africa consumes less than 10% of our value-added coffee, while consumption of imported coffee is on the increase. At the same time, Africa is a net importer of about 12 million bags of coffee, much of which is value-added. Paradoxically, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Africa exports 11 million bags, mainly raw coffee, and imports more value-added coffee. In the process, the continent loses much on job creation, foreign exchange, to mention but a few. In the Kenyan context, coffee is grown in 33 counties out of a total of 47 counties by an estimated 800,000 smallholder growers aggregated into 590 cooperative societies and 2,700 coffee estates with a total acreage of 109,000 hectares dedicated to coffee production. Kenya recognizes the strategic role the coffee subsector plays towards the country's economic growth and vertical integration. Specifically, coffee is a major source of employment, poverty alleviation, food security, foreign exchange, and generally contributes to the livelihood of many Kenyans and is estimated to support directly and indirectly over 5 million Kenyans along the coffee value chain. Kenya pledges for sustainable development to prioritize agriculture as one of the top 6 pillars in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, where all cash crop production is nationalized with compensation of farmers. Cognizance of this, Kenya has prioritized coffee as one of the quick turnaround key subsectors in our economic development model, popularly known as the bottom-up economic transformative agenda, better, as espoused in the Kenya Kwanza government manifesto for 2022 to 2027. Looking at the historical performance, the coffee subsector attained remarkable growth soon after independence, leading to the growth of an all-time high production of 130,000 metric tons in 1987-1988 during the famous coffee boom. Currently, coffee production has been declining due to challenges such as climate change vagaries, perennial price volatility, market access, and low domestic consumption, among others. The decline in production has adversely affected farmers' earnings and their livelihoods. Your Excellencies, Kenya has come up with various initiatives to reverse the declining performance of the coffee sector. The initiatives include e-voucher fertilizer input subsidy program for coffee farmers, rollout of the coffee revitalization program, establishment of the Cherry Advanced Revolving Fund, coffee credit financing through the establishment of Commodities Fund to provide affordable finance credit for coffee farming and other agricultural produce, as well as review of the subsector's legislation. I am convinced that these reform initiatives will bear fruit by increasing Kenya's coffee production from the current 51,000 metric tons realized in 2021-2022 to 100,000 metric tons by the year 2025, thereby contributing to an increase in Africa's coffee production globally. The African Continental Free Trade Area provides opportunities for the acceleration of the inter-African trade. We must therefore take advantage of this vast market potential for Africa by promoting domestic consumption of and boosting African-grown coffee, besides boosting trade position in the global market. Kenya is a good example of promoting inter-African coffee trade in coffee. Kenya's coffee imports from African countries have grown tremendously over a 5-year period from 3 metric tons in 2019-2010 to 857 metric tons in 2022-2023. In the same period, Kenya's coffee exports to African countries reduced from 1,064 metric tons to 212 metric tons, a decrease of 80%. Not very good statistics there. What does this probably show? That Kenya is at the forefront of promoting intra-Africa coffee trade, while majority are not embracing the spirit of the African free trade area. Your Excellencies, with these few remarks, I look forward to fruitful deliberations and concrete outcomes that will indeed bolster the share of Africa in the global coffee market. I wish to assure you of my commitment and support in this endeavor. Finally, I wish to extend our sincere appreciation to the leadership of ICAO for organizing such a robust event. I thank you. Asante sana. God bless you all. And I will go and take my cup of coffee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. The Prime Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, yes, coffee is served and it's delicious. So it's Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, and the birthplace of Robusta coffee, while Ethiopia is the birthplace of Arabica. Your Excellencies, allow me now to request the ministers leading various delegations, who have quite a number, but we'll give each strictly 3 minutes to give you a brief statement such that we can all capture our views and move together before signing the declaration. We'll have the Minister of Agriculture, Livestock and Rural Development from the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, and will be followed by the Minister of Trade from the Republic of Togo. 3 minutes each, and I hope the translation is working. Equatorial Guinea, Honorable Minister.
Excelentísimos señores ministros de Agricultura aquí presente, excelentísimo señor secretario general de la Organización Interafricana, señores representantes de las organizaciones y asociaciones de productores de café, señoras y señores, séame permitido, señor presidente, extender a los aquí presentes los cordiales y fraternales saludos de su excelencia Obiangema Bazogo, presidente de la República de Guinea Ecuatorial, quien por agenda interna de su última hora no ha podido asistir en este magno evento africano, pero que por su espíritu panafricanista sigue de cerca el desarrollo del mismo al tiempo que asegura el perfecto éxito de esta cumbre. Excelentísimo señor presidente, debo expresar mi gratitud y la profunda satisfacción en tanto la iniciativa de la cumbre como la atención prestada, así como la perfecta organización reservada a mi humilde persona y a la delegación que me acompaña. La delegación de Guinea Ecuatorial que tengo el honor de representar en esta cumbre agradece y felicita la iniciativa de la Organización Interafricana de Café y del Gobierno de Uganda por reunir a los africanos productores de café en tanto para analizar la situación actual de ese producto que ha sido la base de la economía que ha aumentado la renta per cápita en nuestros países. Que también la ocasión sea propicia para estudiar y analizar la
which in the past has promoted a strong commitment to
superación y supervivencia, todo ello gracias a las condiciones naturales de nuestras tierras favorables, ricas y productivas para la mejor producción.
Which are favorable, rich and productive land for the best production of coffee, for the best production of condition. In the past, our country produced 10,000 metric tons of commercial coffee with an extension in a superficial surface area of 20,000 hectares, but at present time the production has decreased drastically due to drastically severe factors, mainly external factors, the volatility price driven by consumer market price, driven by consumer market, and other internal factors and other internal factors. The aging of plantations, lack of research and improvement of productivity, the reduction of agricultural labor force, lack of attraction of young people in the productive sector, the absence of local processing of product to add value of the product. These factors have contributed to the loss of farmers' interest in coffee cultivation. His Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished minister, despite these negative effects, that we have highlighted at the beginning, the government of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, aware of the importance of the coffee sector in its economy, of the coffee sector, has designed a program of economic diversification towards Horizon 2035, through which the agriculture subsector and agriculture sector is envisaged is capable of guaranteeing both the United Nations Social Development Goals of the United Nations and the objectives of the African Union 263. However, through the establishment of 100 hectares of nurseries, robusta, or varieties of pure stock tested and adapted to our soil and environmental conditions. The role of Ministry of Agriculture is to sensitize and attract the population, the promotion and extension of the coffee sector through the national territory. The scientific research for the innovation of the sector integrated into the value chain in order to attract young people to production process in order to process in such a way that we will be able to increase the productivity in production as well as the self-esteem in production of the population, to promote the local transformation of product and facilitate the increased consumption of our own products, as has been to say, consume what we produce and produce what we consume. All this would avoid the high importation products from abroad, as highlighted here by main speakers. In the same way, we must ensure the quality and control of these products in order to guarantee the health of our population. At the same time, in order to is recommended to the to effectively promote coffee sector and its effective continuity to finance, to ensure sustainable financing mechanisms which must be supported by the member countries. This requires that the producing countries themselves be the designers of the value chain of the coffee producer. Likewise, the Republic of Equatorial Guinea supports the guidelines of an inclusive African policy, that facilitates the creation of an inter-African free trade zone and advocates for the framework of a fair price for raw material. The product of coffee can be an element of solidarity for every African. Ladies and gentlemen, the Equatorial Guinea Republic, taking into account the negative effects and diseases endemic to our areas. Not to be so long, I am here to say thank you so much for your attention deserved to me.
I think the translation had a problem, but we had one word, gracias. But the Secretariat has translated it into English for the record. The Republic of Togo, Honorable Ministers, we have a good 3 minutes because their excellencies will be departing. Thank you.
Excellences, Monsieur le Président de la République d'Ouganda,
Madame, the President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, the Vice President of the Republic of Tanzania, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and ambassadors, ministers, President of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, President of the African Coffee Associations, and the President of the Coffee Association in Madagascar, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I would like to start by conveying the greetings from our President. The organization of this important high-level meeting, thank you very much. The President of the Republic of Congo recognizes the importance of this meeting. He would have loved to participate personally, to reply to the invitation that was given to him by his friend, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda. But because of some problems that happened at the last minute, he asked me to represent him. Mr. President, I would like to convey to you the greetings and gratitude of your friend and brother. I would like to thank the authorities and the people of Uganda for the warm greetings and welcome that they have extended to us since our arrival in Uganda. Honorable invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, we can never echo this enough. Coffee growing is very strategic in our different economies. The 25 African countries put in place this G-25 summit in order to underscore the fact that coffee must be one of the strategic crops to appear in the agenda, African Union agenda. Our country exports more than 95% of the coffee. That's why we would like to thank the organizers of this meeting for the work that they have done to transform the coffee sector by embracing value addition. So this is a very important thing, and we believe that this is going to help people in embrace consumption of coffee at local level. So this coffee sector must be transformed to become competitive, and putting emphasis on quality, profitability with all the actors and particularly the producers. So this framework is very important, and our president is going to put a lot of emphasis on agribusiness and transformation of the raw materials, because we know that coffee is very important in the development of our countries, and if we have this value chain developed in our countries, it will be very good. However, our countries continue to produce and export coffee as a raw material instead of a finished product. So it is very clear that I would say that brothers and sisters, our country is enriching the foreign countries. Africa is enriching the foreign countries more than itself. So it is high time we embraced value addition at national and international level by transforming the sector, encouraging local consumption, and we should also embrace the free trade area. So Togo is committing itself to embrace the transformation of coffee production, and also we have a strategy where we have to have productive agriculture with high value addition. So coffee was introduced in Togo during the time of the colonial moments, and we have Arabica coffee, but later Robusta coffee was also introduced. So we are ready to improve the quality of coffee. In 2000, we started the small artisanal industries and semi-industries that are transforming coffee. So So with the support of the government, there are actors that are given to improving the quality of coffee and encourage local consumption of the Togolese coffee. On the other hand, the National Development Program, Vision 2030, was supported by the government. So that plan takes into account the aspect of sustainability, socio-economic sustainability. So we shall work together with different actors to make sure that coffee is promoted both at local and international level. I would like to conclude by reiterating the greetings extended to you by the President of Togo and wish that our objectives for the prosperity of coffee in Africa should be realized. May the good Lord bless the coffee sector so that coffee begins to prosper.
Let's have the Minister from the Republic of Angola, followed by the Republic of Malawi. Kindly 3 minutes.
Excelência, Senhor Presidente da República do Uganda,
President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency, Head of States and Government who are present in this summit, Excellency, the Secretary General of the International Organization, Inter-African Organization of Coffee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great gratitude that in the name of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Angola, Dr. João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, I come to the participants to this summit of coffee in this wonderful city of Kampala. I avail of this opportunity to thank the invitation of His Excellency, the President Yoweri Museveni, sent to his by the President of the Republic of Angola, which gives us honor and gives us privilege at the same time to manifest our sincere gratitude for the organization to this very important event. Excellencies, the summit of the African coffee of G-25 takes place at a crucial time in the right country with the topic transforming the African coffee through value addition, which is in line with the African Union Agenda 2023 on the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, and at the time when we are witnessing the growth of coffee crop in regions that were considered to have low production, such as Uganda, but which today has become the second largest coffee producer in Africa and the 9th at the world level. Angola is a founding member of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, one of the oldest intergovernmental organizations in the continent, whose main mission is to assist member countries to address the challenges of the coffee sector, proposing solutions that ensure sustainable production, coffee research, access to markets, promotion, and well-paid prices. Angola is a producer of Robusta and Arabic coffee, whose production is one of the eldest in the sub-Saharan Africa dates back to the beginning of the 19th century. The first production was recorded in 1830, and despite the drop in production levels observed in recent decades, coffee is still one of the main agricultural products in Angola. Ladies and gentlemen, considering the importance of coffee as a wealth to a country whose production has an impact on the economic and the social aspects, on environmental preservation and rebirth of forest ecosystems, on cultural roots, and generates revenue for producers, the government of Angola has been seriously investing in revitalization of the national coffee sector. For household sector, there are ongoing programs to promote coffee production through the supply of seedlings, which aim to introduce new plants, both Robusta and Arabic coffee plants, and will resist an increase in the production of these seedlings in our nurseries at our National Institute of Coffee that has been working in partnership with the private sector will definitely boost this sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Angola has institutionalized the program Made in Angola with the objective, among others, to promote the national manufacturing industry, to display products made in Angola, to select and support business initiatives. The main actions under this program include, among others, to create the basis to finance the productive activity and the consequent value addition to the coffee produced in Angola. The promotion of coffee production in non-traditional areas and revitalization of Arabic coffee in the highlands of the Angolan plateau led to an increase in Arabic coffee production from traditional 5% to 15% today. The post-harvest production system has deserved special attention because it greatly determines the quality of the coffee. The Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry has been working closely with the Minister of Foreign Affairs to promote the Angolan coffee abroad, participating in thematic trade fairs which are being held in several countries. Recently, within the scope of economic diplomacy, events were held in Vietnam, in United Arab Emirates, in Japan, in Serbia, Algeria, and Morocco. Events called Coffee of Angola, Connecting Worldwide Cultures. His Excellency, Mr. President Yoweri Museveni. Finally, allow me, on my behalf and on behalf of my delegation, to thank the hospitality and by all efforts and commitment of the Uganda government organizing this important summit of coffee. We will leave this place with a commitment to successfully put in practice in our country the Kampala Declaration is one instrument to promote the coffee value chain in our countries. I wish you a success on this event. President Museveni, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Let's now hear from the Honorable Minister of Zimbabwe. He will be followed by Rwanda and thereafter Burundi. Honorable Minister of Zimbabwe, welcome.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, General Museveni, in the interest of time, all protocol observed. Zimbabwe is a very small producer of coffee, tagged in Southern Africa. At peak, we produce 15,000 metric tons, valued at about $54 million, and employed about 20,000 people. That is drastically reduced But in 2018, the Second Republic, ably led by His Excellency Dr. Idi Mnangagwa, came in and put in a raft of bold and transformative agricultural strategies captured as the Agriculture and Food Systems Transformation Strategy. In it, he proclaimed Rural Development 8.0, which is a cocktail of outcome-based and impact-oriented presidential interventions meant to impact the 3 million households so that no one and no place is left behind in our quest to become a prosperous and empowered upper middle income society by 2030. In it, the President declared that coffee, among others, trees will be grown in areas where the ecological footprint of coffee are allowed. And we looked at priority areas: food security, feed security, fiber security, biofuel security, now beverage security. We have now re-established the Coffee Research Institute to be able to provide innovation and to be able to surmount the challenges caused by diseases, debilitating pests. And we are now doing cuttings for the communities in the ecological footprint of coffee in the country. We have also put in place a government program under Rural Development 8.0 to ensure that the communities are provided with capacitation. We have 6,000 extension officers throughout the country, each one covering 300, 400 households. Each one now has a motorbike. Each one now has a technology, GPS-enabled gadget, and they are able to provide dedicated capacitation and extension service support. Resultantly, we are beginning to see an increase in the volume of coffee that is produced. Sadly, to learn from Uganda, to learn from Ethiopia, the birthplace of Robusta and Arabica coffees, to be able to do much more. So we support the Kampala Declaration in its entirety. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for being brief and for your remarks. Siabong, the Honorable Minister from Rwanda, followed by Burundi, and I will mention the next speakers.
Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, all protocol observed, a very good afternoon. While I'm enjoying the hospitality in this great country of Uganda, I'm honored to attend and address the G-25 Africa Coffee Summit on behalf of the President of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame. Coffee, a cherished beverage enjoyed by people worldwide, holds a special place in our hearts. Beyond being a symbol of comfort and enthusiasm, it has become a vital economic pillar for countless communities. In Rwanda, the third main contributor of our foreign earnings is coffee, and it plays a crucial role in maintaining our balance of trade and driving our overall economy. Our coffee sector sustains over 400,000 households, cultivating coffee on almost 40,000 hectares of land. For those hardworking farmers, coffee production is not merely a livelihood, it is their way of life. Let us take a moment, therefore, to acknowledge and appreciate the exceptional effort of our coffee farmers across the continent. The aromatic and delicious beans we savor every day are the fruits of their unwavering commitment and labor in the fields. Their dedication is what truly fuels the coffee industry, and it is essential that we honor the resilience and dedication. Excellencies, as we gather here to discuss the future of coffee industry, it is imperative that we address the pressing issues plaguing our coffee value chain. First, our farmers' livelihoods are greatly impacted by price volatility, leading to unpredictable and variable incomes. To support them and the dedication, we must strive for fair and consistent rates that adequately compensate their hard work. Second, the problem of income disparity within the coffee value chain cannot be overlooked. While coffee drinkers around the world savor more their morning brew, by many of the farmers struggle to make a dignified life. It is our collective responsibility to find solutions that promote a fair revenue distribution across the entire value chain. By fostering transparency, we empower consumers to make informed decisions and strengthen the negotiating power of all stakeholders. Finally, climate change poses extraordinary challenges to coffee farming, endangering the very foundation of this industry. As custodians of the industry, we must remain steadfast in our commitment to advancing climate-smart agriculture, promoting eco-friendly practices, and supporting environmental conservation programs. Excellencies, it's crucial to place the needs of small-scale coffee producers at the forefront, empowering farmers and amplifying their voices in shaping the dedication of the coffee business can be achieved strengthening farmer cooperatives, increasing access to extension services, and promoting inclusive policies. Furthermore, by investing in equality, innovation, and sustainability, the coffee sector can thrive and adapt to the ever-changing demands of the global market. As I end, let us not forget that the future of coffee lies not just in beans, but also in the hands and hearts of all those who will toil relentlessly to bring us the benefit of coffee. Together, we can chart a transformative path for the industry, ensuring a brighter future of all involved. I thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you fruitful deliberations in this G-25 Africa Coffee Summit. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Rwanda. Thank you. We now have the Honorable Minister from Burundi. He will be followed by the Honorable Minister from the Republic of Algeria. After Burundi, it will be Algeria.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, dear participants, friends of coffee, all protocol observed. First of all, let me take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to the government of Uganda for the warm welcome accorded to me and my delegation since landing in this beautiful city. Your Excellencies, on behalf of the government of Burundi, let me convene the salutation and solidarity to the government of Uganda and the people of Uganda from His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Burundi, His Excellency Evariste Ndayishimiye. Your Excellencies, the theme of this summit is very important and crucial topic in the context of the African Continental Free Trade Area, as coffee is one of the most traded agriculture commodity globally. For the Republic of Burundi, coffee is strategic agriculture commodity to our economy, as it is contribute together with the tea to 90% of foreign exchange earnings, 40% of total exports, and correspond to 6% of the country GDP. All activities related to the coffee production chain contribute to the generation of employment and income for small and medium cooperatives of farmers. Reason why the government of the Republic of Burundi is committed to improve coffee value chain by increasing financial resources, capacity building, and involvement and value efforts of small farmers in alignment of the vision of Burundi 2040. In the context of African Continental Free Trade Area, and in order to ensure quality and standard of the coffee, adequate structure of quality management of coffee should be put in place and reinforced. In fact, the sustainability of the coffee production chain will only be achieved through the distribution of wealth, especially for those small farmers and the operators in the supplier chain who invest many times in and resources. Reason why involvement and consideration of the private sector roles in coffee sector is very important. Therefore, small farmers must be primarily assisted in the acumen of agronomic know-how and in finding adequate input in order to increase production and meet coffee product quality. In particular, attention must be directed toward to young people and women who are more likely to learn innovative agriculture and processing techniques. Government must also put in place policies aimed to reversing current trends for the future generation of coffee producers. Under the African Free Trade Area, coffee must be taken into consideration in order to start discussions on standards and rules of origin for the coffee sector, as it is ongoing with textile and automobile, as soon as possible for promoting intertrade and boosting coffee industry so that we will make a milestone of the Africa we want. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is one of the solutions of some socio-economic challenges that we faced. To do so, we must focus on inclusive and sustainable programs which add value of our economies and which also improve the livelihood of our population, like agriculture, commodities, as well as coffee. I hope by the end of the day, we'll come up with a framework in order to unlock trade and investment opportunity in coffee sector. As I conclude, once again, I appreciate the hospitality of Ugandan people and the excellent organization of this summit. On behalf of the government of the Republic of Burundi, I'd like to ensure the commitment of the Republic of Burundi for transforming the African coffee sector through value addition. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable Minister of the Republic of Algeria. He will be followed by the representative of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire.
Son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République d'Ouganda, Monsieur Yoweri Museveni, Excellence, Madame la Présidente de la République fédérale de l'Éthiopie, Excellence, Monsieur le Vice-président de la République de la Tanzanie, Excellence, Monsieur le Premier secrétaire de la République de Kenya, Monsieur le Ministre, Excellence Ambassadeur, Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Tout d'abord, au nom de Son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République, Abdelmajid Tebboune, je tiens à vous remercier d'avoir convié notre pays pour prendre part à la deuxième session du sommet africain.
You for accepting to host this summit, the G-25 summit, as producers of coffee today around this precious resource of coffee. I'd like to appreciate the warm welcome that we've received and the great hospitality that we've been able to experience since as soon as we arrived in your country by the people, by the authorities, and everyone. This shows this great summit that which we are meeting in with the great vision to assert integrative strategies of our African economies and optimize the opportunities of exchange across the different sectors, and we want to be able to have the different actors in this region within Africa who need the the new dynamic impulsion of the dynamic regional impulse, especially when it comes to the free trade movement, and when it comes to the using and sharing of our resources and integration of our efforts. We would like to, as heads of state, and take it our responsibility today to stop exporting our raw materials of the continent, and instead to promote more of the inter-African exchange so that we can preserve the future of our people and of our continent. It's true that Algeria is not a producing country of coffee, but we are a buyer, we are a consumer. So that's why our president insisted that with the invitation with our president, we can attend and also be able to share this message that we can be part of the different ways which we can promote the trade and to redirect our economy towards promoting African trade among us, which, because we have a very big space that covers over 6,300 kilometers. So we need to make sure that we can conserve our independence as Africans, our sovereignty of our African countries. So we have to share this great message to continue working together towards to rediscover our sovereignty and also exploit our natural resources. And Algeria today has more than our consumption of coffee went to more than $2.8 million in 2019, and it has gone up to $7 million in 2012. And Arabica coffee, we have up to 2%. We're looking at we're looking at how we can import more than 35%. We want to have after 100% of the coffee imported from all over Africa into Algeria. We import from many countries, which include Uganda, Ivory Coast, among others. We also suggest that to have that economic independence, we suggest that you have a lot of potential and a lot of products, so we should avoid exporting our financial resources to other countries out of Africa. So we suggest that the next session, next year's summit can put together both the producers and the consumers within Africa, so that we can find ways on how we can put together the mechanisms that can allow us to buy directly from the producers and increase the level of the quality of what we produce. So we are encouraging all of us to let's consume what we have produced ourselves, our Africans, and build our economies together. Thank you so much.
Cote d'Ivoire, followed by Malawi. Thank you. We are moving steadily. If we can observe time, we will all be good to go.
Excellence, Monsieur Yoweri Museveni, chef de l'État, Président de la République du Uganda.
The President of the Republic of Uganda.
Monsieur le Président en exercice de l'OIAC,
the President of the Organization of Coffee, and the President of Ethiopia, and the President is Your Excellency, the Vice President of Uganda, Your Excellency, the Vice President of Tanzania, the Prime Minister of Kenya, honorable ministers and members of the different G25 countries, of the different delegations and the diplomatic delegations. And also Madam Excellency Joseph Carriero from the EU Commissioner.
Authority.
And also the Managing Director, Dr. Emmanuel of the UCDA.
Monsieur le chef de la délégation de
And,
l'Union européenne
and
Uganda.
His Excellency Jean Chadek, Head of Delegation of European Union in Kampala.
Mesdames et messieurs, en vos
Ladies and gentlemen, in your different capacities and all protocols observed. Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Uganda, please allow me to share with you the brotherly and cordial greetings from your brother, His Excellency Alassane Ouattara, the President of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. I am here in Kampala as the head of the delegation, a strong delegation from our country. We would like to thank you and appreciate you, and also to appreciate the people of Uganda who have really welcomed us so well and since yesterday. If you allow me, Your Excellency, I would like to make some observations, then I'll complete my speech. You spoke about the revenue that is made out of coffee, more than $466 million, where only about 6% comes to Africa. I'm a representative of Ivory Coast for raw materials in raw materials in the UK, and especially for cocoa, and only 5% comes to the producers. That's in Africa, Asia, and also in Latin America. Africa alone produces more than 70% of cocoa all over the world. That means that we have about only 2% of this when it comes to earnings. So your speech was very, very important, Your Excellency. So this type of when it comes, these observations are true when it comes to all productions of raw materials. My second observation is about the declaration of the G25 in Kampala. Your Excellency, Mr. President, I'm very happy because I looked at the document, and what I look at as the product strategy of the Africa, strategically, I think we have everything. We have Ethiopia, we have the President of Africa here, we have the President of Agriculture, where we find the head of the headquarters of the AU, and also we have ECOWAS represented. We have also Madame Josephine Sako, who was also the former Secretary General of the USA. We also have our Papa here, who can help us and guide us. So I have no doubts that our coffee can be able to get the agenda we want to be able to succeed in achieving. I'd like to end by appreciating you, Your Excellency. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Webale Nyo. Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. A round of applause. A round of applause for Cote d'Ivoire. So next is Malawi, and Malawi will be followed by the Secretary General of the Organization of Southern Cooperation, His Excellency Sheikh Mansour bin Muslim, after Malawi.
Your Excellency Yoweri Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, the heads of state and government, heads of delegations, cabinet ministers, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to represent His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Malawi, Dr. Lazarus Makathi Chakwera, and the people of Malawi at this event. Allow me to thank you, Your Excellency, and the people of Uganda for welcoming us to your beautiful country, and also for hosting the second G-25 African Coffee Summit following the inaugural one held in Nairobi, Kenya. The gathering today is important as Africa has the best quality coffee in the world. Therefore, it is a great need for leaders to work together in securing financing and also having a political commitment to safeguard the coffee industry. Your remarks, Your Excellency, this morning were very inspiring. Let me just say I had the privilege of listening to you speaking in 2 weeks, because the first time we were together in Russia, and you also made a very passionate statement. And this morning, likewise, it has been very inspiring. So I thank you so much for that, Your Excellency. Malawi, as an agro-based economy, where agriculture sector contributes to about 23% of the GDP and 80% of export earnings, employing about 64% of Malawi's workforce. It also produces food and nutrition security. We highly value the development of agriculture exports. We have aligned our country's vision to that of Africa's 2063, and we have identified agriculture productivity and commercialization as one of the pillars for growth. Our first 10 years of implementation plan identifies horticultural crops, including coffee, as one of the key areas we need to commercialize. And over the past years, production and processing of coffee has been on the increase, but we know we can do more, and we want to do more. Coffee production is currently lower than what we expected, about 1,500 metric tons per year, and it is mostly produced by small-scale farmers organized in cooperatives and a few large estates. All the coffee that is produced by smallholder farmers is processed by the Coffee Authority, which in turn sells on the local market as well as export to the international market. The tons that we are producing annually is not a figure that we are proud of. Therefore, we would want to promote investment in the coffee production in Malawi, and in view of that, Malawi is promoting the development of mega farms to fully utilize the fertile soil that we have, as well as large bodies of water, such as Lake Malawi and Shire River, to do massive irrigation. There is also need to assist smallholder farmers to increase their share of production from the current 33% to a much larger one. Massive investment in this sector would enable us to reach 30,000 metric tons with potential earnings of around $200 million annually. But for us to do that, we need to focus on 3 areas. Firstly, increase yields from the current 200 to 250 kilograms of clean coffee per hectare to about 500 or even 700 with proper investment. Secondly, we need to increase access to pesticides and fertilizer, mainly for the smallholder farmers. And thirdly, we need to increase and investment in eliminating pests and diseases such as leaf rust and also coffee berry in the coffee industry. The main thrust here is the production of coffee and resulting into growth in the export volumes and export earnings. Malawi's Vision 2063 is committed to increasing coffee production and, as you have ably said, Your Excellency, a value addition so that we can export already processed products. And thirdly, consumption, including domestic consumption. In view of this, Malawi's view is that the Africa Free Continental Trade Area, as one of the platforms that would be beneficial to promote the coffee industry in Malawi, needs to be supported greatly. Malawi is therefore ready to support the cause of this summit and stand ready to partner with investors and other like-minded institutions, organizations, and countries to grow more and benefit from the coffee industry. I thank you, Your Excellency, for welcoming us. May the Lord bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Malawi. We are now going to hear from the Secretary General of the Organization of Southern Cooperation, and will be followed by the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries from the Republic of Congo.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellency, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency, Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Right Honorable Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic of Kenya, esteemed and distinguished Chairman of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, distinguished Secretary General of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, Mesdames et Messieurs, en vos rangs, grades et qualités, y según lo que tengo entendido, tenemos también a algunos latinoamericanos, así que un saludo particular para América Latina y el Caribe. Ladies and gentlemen, as I have gained in the past a reputation as an interminable speaker, I have taken the liberty this time around of preparing a written speech in order to limit my infamous excesses once I'm given a microphone. Although I must apologize in advance, I highly doubt that it will be 3 minutes, but I am most grateful for the indulgence that you will demonstrate. This fair warning having been articulated and issued, allow me first to express, because it is first and foremost my profoundest appreciation that I should like to express to the government of the Republic of Uganda and to the Inter-African Coffee Organization for the invitation to address this summit today, whose topic is as crucial to the development agenda as its convening is timely. Ladies and gentlemen, as the intergovernmental organization of the South, and not merely for it, as the international organization by the South, and not arrogantly on behalf of it, the Organization of Southern Cooperation firmly believes in the importance of a new kind of multilateralism, one that adopts a framework of equality amongst parties, of equity in their relations, and of elevating solidarity rather than debasing charity. This new multilateralism demands, on the one hand, North-South partnerships which are equitable in that they acknowledge, respect, and abide by national priorities and local realities. And, on the other hand, it unambiguously calls for the reinforcement and amplification of South-South cooperation amongst countries and peoples that, whilst extraordinarily diverse in their histories, in their trajectories, in their realities, nevertheless share some systemic aspirations and challenges. And in order to build mutually beneficial North-South partnerships that achieve self-sufficiency in our countries, as well as to ensure effective South-South cooperation that goes beyond mere aspirations and achieves tangible results, proper regional exchanges, cooperation, and integration are necessary. And this summit of African coffee-producing countries embodies such an aspiration for African integration, which in turn accelerates and reinforces the cooperation amongst our countries of the South and their eventual integration. And the very subject matter of our gathering, coffee, is perhaps the most appropriate, the most effective symbol of our countries of the South. Because coffee, ladies and gentlemen, is a tree whose fruit is absolutely universal, yet whose roots only grow within southern soil. In Latin America and the Caribbean, in Africa, in the Arab world, and in Asia. Coffee also represents the structural economic injustices that our countries have and continue to endure, whilst simultaneously embodying the potential for endogenous development to be materialized into a tangible, prosperous, and sustainable reality for our peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, the elements that we must consider at this summit fall under two general categories: short-term measures to address the structural issues with the coffee industry as it currently stands, and medium-term measures in order to transform the coffee sector within our countries. In 2021 alone, the value of the global coffee trade, not even taking into account the consumer market value of $466 billion, amounted to over $36 billion. Yet, not only do our coffee-producing and exporting countries only benefit from as little as 5% of the end market prices, but we are also exposed to the whims of the international commodity market, setting the prices which keep fluctuating for our produce. Even well-intentioned initiatives to address this issue, such as the Fair Trade Foundation, which has recently increased quite generously, apparently, the fair trade minimum price per pound to $1.80 for washed Arabica and $1.20 for natural Robusta. Even those well-intentioned initiatives do not address the root causes of the problem. When the international commodity market prices plummet, this does not in the least reduce the cost of coffee growers, 25 million of whom are smallholder farmers. Yet the minimum prices set by the Fair Trade Foundation are the same everywhere, despite the fact that the living costs, the production costs, are different in each of our countries. In other words, despite appearances, even initiatives that aim to ensure fairness in the profoundly inequitable global coffee trade are, by basing themselves on the whims of the international market, nothing more than a price guarantee for retailers in the north, and not a price assurance, a living profit margin assurance for producers in the south. The state of affairs, ladies and gentlemen, is not only abysmal, but it is intolerable. Our coffee-producing countries, not only of Africa, but also of Latin America and the Caribbean, of the Arab world, and of Asia, must come together in order to stabilize the markets for our farmers, as well as set prices that are authentically fair. We have done it in the past as countries, in the case of oil. We can do it again today in the case of coffee. In this regard, In this regard, the Organization of Southern Cooperation is committed to work with member states and other stakeholders, in particular the African Union and the Inter-African Coffee Organization and their counterparts in other regions of the South, to make this a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, another set of short-term measures that must be implemented, especially in Africa, are those aimed to address the productivity gap. Whereas Africa accounted for 30% of the global area of 11.3 million hectares harvested in 2021, it only represented 12% of the 175.6 million bags produced in the same year. And whilst this staggering dissonance between area harvested and yield realized in the continent undoubtedly speaks to the technology divide that we must bridge as countries, but it also forcefully highlights the role and responsibility of our education systems, in particular, technical and vocational education and training. Aside from the fertilizers and of overall technology to which African smallholder farmers have limited access, there is an abundance of knowledge, both modern and ancestral, that would enable them to increase their yields, improve their livelihoods, and contribute to environmental sustainability. In the host country of this summit, Uganda, an agroforestry project in 2020 demonstrated that pruning, which consists in trimming the dead and young shoots off of tree stems, when done deliberately and consistently, ensured less water use, the creation of water reserves in the soil that can be used for other crops, and increased the yield of those smallholder farmers by 27 to 32%. Such examples, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, indicate that we must have a more deliberate approach to coffee farming in our countries, not only by inscribing in our policy frameworks a systematic collaboration between our ministries of agriculture and our ministries of education, but also by investing more comprehensively in transdisciplinary research in those areas of common interest of our countries. And in this regard, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Organization of Southern Cooperation stands ready to work closely with governments and partner institutions to simultaneously facilitate the review of policy frameworks on the basis of a systemic whole-of-government approach, and in establishing regional, intergovernmental, transdisciplinary research centers, both aspects being already part of the common program of our member states for the years 2023-2024. Finally,
thank you so much. Finally, as you go, yes, finally.
You're most welcome. Finally, with regard to short-term measures that we may collectively and respectively consider for implementation, I should like to address the central issue of green bean exports, which regrettably constitute the majority of our total coffee exports as countries of the South. As stated previously, green bean exports are not only fundamentally unstable sources of income for our countries, but also deeply inequitable for our smallholder farmers. And our shared intention to transform the coffee sector through value addition notwithstanding, at present, green bean exports towards the north, where they are processed, remain an essential source of livelihood for our citizens across the South. Yet, even when only looking at the green the data of green bean exports, it is disheartening, ladies and gentlemen, to see that Germany, that does not produce nor grow a single coffee tree, exports green coffee beans amounting to a value of $635 million, whereas the value of the exports in terms of green beans of Uganda, the second largest coffee exporter after Ethiopia, only amounted to $559 million in 2021. Accordingly, as another short-term measure, I move that we consider, as coffee-producing countries from the South, to deliberately prohibit green coffee exports to suppliers in the North that merely repackage and resell the green beans at a premium. Their clients should have to redirect their operations towards the purchase of green beans directly in the country of origin. And whilst the costs of certification, including well-intentioned ones, are often borne by the producers that we are, in such a case, the burden and cost of proving value addition would fall on the buyers. And any green beans that we subsequently no longer export must be redirected towards national and regional coffee industries which add value to our production. For the value of these short-term measures notwithstanding, as an intergovernmental organization whose mission is to contribute to the collective construction of a third way of development from the South, by the South, yet for the entirety of humanity, the OSC remains adamant that we must, from today, invest in value addition and the structural transformation of the coffee sector, which shall bear fruit in the medium term. And at the risk of reiterating the conspicuous, coffee only grows in the South. Yet, outrageously, 4 out of the top 10 coffee exporters in the world are European: Switzerland, Germany, Italy, and France, each of whom exported more coffee in 2021 than Ethiopia, which is the largest African coffee exporter. As a matter of fact, Europe constitutes 39% of total coffee exports, whereas African coffee exports amount to a mere 7%. In other words, Africa sells, alongside other southern regions, green coffee beans to Europe, where they are roasted, processed, encapsulated, and, in part, sold back to us. If we are to achieve the endogenous development and shared prosperity to which we aspire, we must ensure, ladies and gentlemen, that the majority of the value addition in the global coffee industry occurs in the country of origin. But it is only possible if we inscribe our initiatives within a broader, systemic, and collective plan of transformation, a third way of development. Such a plan of action, addressing the structural weaknesses of our economies which generate our dependencies, should focus on 7 strategic and sovereignty-enhancing sectors: high value-added industrialization, endogenous technology development, sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, balanced and inclusive education systems, integral health systems, and infrastructure. High value-added industrialization because our countries of the South remain to this day net exporters of products with low value-added content, of raw materials. And it is no longer sufficient to produce within our countries. We must transform within them. In the case of coffee, this means investing in roasting facilities, in processing and in packaging plants, in capsule factories. Endogenous technology development, because the techno-digital divide will not be bridged by donations nor by importing costly technologies. For these technologies, which are not only costly, but generally closed source and proprietary, will be obsolete in a matter of years, not decades. And we will find ourselves then exactly where we find ourselves now, that is, as passengers rather than shapers of the fourth industrial revolution. We must develop our own endogenous national or regional technologies, harnessing the creative capacity of our youth and stimulating our economies, and enhance our production capacities, including coffee origin traceability and quality assurance. Sustainable agriculture, because as demonstrated by the exogenous shocks felt by our countries as the result of recent crises, we must be able, beyond food security, to achieve food sovereignty, and to do so in a manner that does not compromise the needs of future generations. Energy, because no aspect of development is possible without energy, demanding from us a coherent plan to ensure energy sovereignty. And renewable, because our dependence on fossil fuels is not only profoundly detrimental to the planet, but also exposes our economies to external market shocks, leading to inflation, reduced margins for our industries, and unreliability of energy provision for many of our citizens. In the case of coffee industrialization, this entails investing in energy efficiency, affordability, and reliability, not only to power our industries, but also to reduce the operating expenditures of our farmers. Balanced and inclusive education systems, because there is no development possible without education. Yet not any kind of education. We need an education that is transformed in order to become transformative. This calls in the coffee sector for the design of courses both in academic and TVET tracks, including advanced coffee roasting and blending courses, to prepare our youth to lead and grow the nascent industries centered on value addition. Integral health systems, because beyond the conspicuous, as demonstrated by the last pandemic, which may not be the last, we must ensure our capacity to protect the right of our peoples to quality healthcare. This also means that beyond curative medicine, we must invest in preventative care. This entails investing in One Health policies, involving the public health, animal, and environmental sectors to account for the interconnected and interdependent nature of our health with that of domestic and wild animals, plants, crops, and the wider ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, as I get to the conclusion, to please our Master of Ceremonies, it is my plan B in life. Ladies and gentlemen, this direction which we are determined to take collectively towards an approach to multidimensional, endogenous, and sustainable development, for which coffee has the potential to act as the catalyst, is one that is not only feasible, but within reach. Because we may speak at length of this transformation, we may even develop policies and operational plans for its realization, but if we do not give ourselves the financial means to invest in these sectors that are key to the shared prosperity of our peoples and the multidimensional development of our nations, then all that we are discussing today will remain nothing more than eluding intangible aspirations. We must accordingly work together as countries of the South to ensure greater fiscal space for governments to invest in those strategic areas, but also to secure fresh financing for their multidimensional development agenda on highly concessional terms. And it is with this imperative in mind that the OSC is actively working with its member states on the launch in the course of this year and the next of a number of new, innovative and solidary financial instruments that will give material substance to our noble discourses. Whereas the second Africa, this is my paragraph, yes. Look, you invited me for 20 minutes. I flew here, so you'll respect me and let me finish that paragraph. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, for as this second Africa Coffee Summit unfolds, as experiences are shared, as arguments convince, as ideas are concretized to transform the coffee industry and by extension our development models, we must act with a collective, righteous sense of urgency, striving as one to forge the future instead of being forged by it. To that end, ladies and gentlemen, we must, through a whole of government, whole of society endeavor, muster the will that is necessary to transform our aspirations into action. The clock is ticking, and the struggle for a better world continues. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your speech. My sincere apologies, Excellencies and honorable members. I'm trying to balance time and be sensitive to your planned schedules. So it's not being rude. Once again, my apologies. Let's hear from a statement from the Honorable Minister of Congo. Congo, DRC. No, my apologies, my apologies. Republic of Congo, my sincere apologies.
Your Excellency Yoweri Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Excellencies, distinguished guests, all protocols observed. On behalf of the President of the Republic of Congo, His Excellency Denis Sassou Nguesso, I wish to express our deep appreciation and gratitude to the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, for his leadership and hospitality in organizing this second edition of the G-25 Africa Coffee Summit. This gathering provides the 25 African coffee-producing countries with the opportunity to collaborate in addressing common challenges and exploring opportunities in the coffee sector. In my country, the Republic of Congo, coffee has been a source of pride in the past. However, it faced difficult times due to the structural adjustment plans imposed by the International Monetary Fund. Since 1998, our government has made efforts to revitalize the coffee sector. Today, we observe a renewed interest in coffee cultivation, but our producers still face several challenges, such as the lack of technical expertise, high-performance plant material, and difficulties in marketing channels. The government of the Republic of Congo is determined to create an environment conducive to investment in the coffee sector by investing, among other things, in the rehabilitation of propagation centers and research to improve the quality and productivity of our coffee plants. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the success of our commitment to African coffee depends on our ability to work hand in hand. This requires close collaboration between governments, regional and international institutions, the private sector, civil society organizations, and coffee producers. Together, we can also create a dynamic ecosystem that promotes the development of local and regional value chains. African coffee has the potential to play a leading role in the global coffee trade. We must demonstrate innovation and creativity to develop new forms of coffee processing that meet the changing demands of consumers. The Republic of Congo is determined to work with all African countries present here to turn this vision into reality. Together, we can transform African coffee into a sought-after and appreciated product by consumers worldwide. Long live Africa, long live African coffee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Thank you so much. We're going to hear the next speaker is the Minister of Commerce, Republic of Cameroon. and he will be followed by His Excellency Jan Sadek, the head of the delegation of the EU in Kampala.
Excellences, Monsieur le Président de la République de l'Ouganda, Excellences, Madame la Présidente de la République fédérale d'Éthiopie, Excellences, Monsieur le Vice-président de la République de Tanzanie, Excellences, Monsieur le Premier ministre de la République du Kenya, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Excellences, Madame l'ambassadeur Josepha Sako, commissaire à l'agriculture et au développement rural de la Commission de l'Union africaine,
Rural Development at the African Union, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the President of the Republic of Cameroon, His Excellency Paul Biya, who has delegated me to give his speech, allow me to express gratitude and thanks to His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, and his government for inviting Cameroon to attend this second G-25 African Coffee Summit. And on behalf of my delegation, we have been gratified since our arrival and hospitality accorded to us in Uganda. I would also like to thank the actual chair and Secretary General of the Inter-African Coffee Organization for having organized this event. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Cameroon has been one of the leading producers of coffee in Africa. Remember, we've had 600,000 tons during the 86-87 campaign, which made Cameroon the second African producer of coffee. Unfortunately, we witnessed a fall in prices, and that led to a decline in the sector. And other farmers preferred more profitable crops. So, facing this situation, the Cameroonian government in 2010 put in place a strategy to develop the sector. The objective was to move from a subsistence sector to a sustainable sector that was economically profitable to all the actors. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, through Mr. Paul Biya, the President of the Republic, who has been happy to be present at this summit, and this is because our work during this summit is to transform the African coffee sector through value addition, and it corresponds perfectly to the Cameroonian strategy of coffee development that I have talked about. This actually requires Africa to integrate itself in a sustainable way so that we can be part of the world coffee value chain. So if we continue to position ourselves at the bottom of the chain by producing raw materials, 89% of African coffee will continue to be captured outside Africa for its value, and this will not be in line with our intentions. Value addition to our coffee is the most sure way to get out of the traps that have been imposed on us, and we shall be able to ensure convenient remuneration for our farmers. So in Kampala, what we are going to do is to ensure that we supply other factories and other our coffee should not just simply be processed by others. We should locally produce and consume and process our coffee. And this was emphasized in the meeting in Kigali during the signing of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Produce in Africa and consume in Africa. So we have youth, especially in the diaspora, who are qualified in technology and in innovation, and they can be useful in processing coffee in our countries. We have 60% of arable land in the world. We have dynamic agricultural land that can enable us to transform the sector. We have the biggest markets in the world, especially if you look at the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which has about 3 billion consumers. So we must act now. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to say that Cameroon supports the integration of coffee as a raw material and within the 2063 African Union agenda. This is the Africa that we want. We should not just supply raw materials to the rest of the world, but become a continent that utilizes its own resources to ensure economic development of Africans. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. Thank you, Excellency. We can continue. The President has signaled we can continue. We are now going to hear from His Excellency Jan Sadek, the head of delegation of the EU, the European Union in Kampala, Your Excellency. He will be followed by His Excellency Yusuf Mondoha Asomanit, Ambassador of the Union of the Comoros in Ethiopia and permanent representative to the EU, the Union of the Comoros.
Well, in his absence, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Excellencies, heads of state and government and vice presidents and honorable ministers from the member states of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, in particular our hosts, Her Excellency Vice President Alupo, Honorable Tumwebaze and Honorable Odongo, the Commissioner and representatives of the African Union Commission, the Secretary General of the Organization of Southern Cooperation, fellow ambassadors, the leadership of IACO and UCDA, private sector representatives, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. What a pleasure it is for me to address you on behalf of the European Union. In my part of the world, I think the President referred to us as the cold countries. We drink coffee all the time, for breakfast at 10 o'clock, after lunch at 3 o'clock, and even after dinner. And coffee is also one of the most important links between Africa and Europe. And this is certainly the case for Uganda. As you know, the EU is the most important importer of Ugandan and African coffee. And as we all know, coffee is a growth market, and some African countries like Uganda remain amongst the most important coffee producers in the world, in volumes and in terms of quality. Here in Uganda, 3.5 million families depend on the coffee sector for their livelihood. 3.5 million. And around 60% of your coffee is exported to the EU. And that is why I think coffee is such an important link between Uganda and the European Union. But in Africa, you do not drink much coffee, with the exception, of course, of Ethiopia and a couple of other countries. Actually, your coffee consumption is one of the lowest in the world, but this means there is a great potential in increasing it. Apart from the economic benefit you would gain, Africa would also gain power as a price setter, like other producing countries with a considerable home consumption, such as Brazil and India. So the EU clearly acknowledges the importance of further investing in coffee value addition and in the African coffee consumption market, and is prepared to support this growth in all possible sustainable ways, as we have been doing here in Uganda, in Rwanda, and in East Africa as a region. In Uganda specifically, the EU has been supporting the coffee sector by investing in research and innovation, by promoting climate-smart agricultural practices, and by stimulating sustainable production, marketing, and consumption. Over the 5 past years, our support has reached almost 45 million euros. In addition, the EU is piloting corporate sustainability due diligence in the coffee sector in Uganda and other African countries. The lessons learned will be used to further develop our support to stakeholders in partner countries, in implementing due diligence, and in managing the impact of EU regulations in this field. And let me advertise a very interesting panel on this topic on Thursday. Our support to the coffee sector is part of our partnership with Africa. The EU is committed to leverage investments through the Africa-Europe Global Gateway investment package, worth at least 150 billion euros by 2027. The rollout of the package has started, and it includes support to partner countries in boosting their local production and decrease their dependence on expensive and unsustainable agricultural inputs. As part of our support, the EU and the African Union are looking at identifying a number of strategic value chains to be promoted, and coffee is one of those selected as a priority for Uganda and for many other African countries. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa and the European Union are important trading partners. The EU is the #1 export destination for African products. You normally export 1/3 of your total exports to the EU. In 2021, Africa exported almost 150 billion euros to Europe, to compare with, as a topical example, less than 2 million euros to Russia. As an example, you have to understand your markets. As an exporter, you have to understand your markets. And the EU market is changing. Consumers are increasingly conscious of global challenges like climate change and biodiversity, and they desire ethically produced products. This is also reflected in the increased market for specialty coffee, in which the EU is a leading importer. The EU also continues to certify coffee with indication of origin, which leads to higher payments to farmers. It is the EU's wish to continue to be a proud consumer of superb African coffee. An often used argument is that roasting of coffee goes together with deep knowledge of specific consumer markets and their specific coffee blend demand, and that coffee, once roasted, needs to be off the shelf within 3 months' time. This, it is being said, would make it difficult for African roasted coffee to be integrated in the EU market. However, the EU is prepared to look beyond the old paradigms by supporting the proposals of the G-25 of you to process coffee for local markets in Africa, and by, importantly, considering to facilitate and incentivize partnerships with roasters from the EU to market coffee processed or roasted in Africa on the EU market, as you have suggested, Your Excellency. It is important to recall that there are no import tariffs or taxes on the EU border from coffee coming from Africa, whether processed or not. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we look forward to the submission and adoption of the Kampala Declaration, the EU pledges to support the declaration as a way of ensuring that coffee continues contributing to the improved livelihoods of people on the continent. We also pledged to support the efforts under the African Continental Free Trade Area to promote value addition in order to enhance intra-regional Africa trade, especially in coffee. So in conclusion, let me wish you fruitful deliberation in this G25 Africa Coffee Summit and thank the government of Uganda, IACO and UCDA for their efforts. As the EU in Uganda, we have established a very strong partnership with UCDA and with its Managing Director, Dr. Emmanuel Yamulemye. So while leaving the podium, I again remind about the coffee as a delicious link between our two continents. And as a concrete example, I wave with this special EU blend of coffee that UCDA developed for the EU delegation for our Europe Day celebrations this year. And I present it, I allow myself to present it to you, Your Excellency. May I directly do that? And I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Give him a round of applause as he hands over. Very good, thank you. The camera people capture that moment. Okay, you can capture it from wherever you are. Thank you so much, Excellency John. And from the agriculture sector and UCDA, we appreciate the partnerships we have with the EU, especially in our regulatory framework and for the standards of the value chain. Excellencies, we are coming to an end. I want to thank you once again for your patience. We have 2-3 more remarks. We should be done in 15 minutes. We are now going to hear from Ambassador of the Union of the Comoros in Ethiopia and permanent rep to the AU, the Union of the Comoros. Then we'll have more to close this session. Thank you.
Mheshimiwa Rais wa Uganda, General Yoweri Museveni, Excellence Madame la Présidente de la République démocratique fédérale d'Éthiopie, Messieurs, Mesdames les vice-présidents, Monsieur le ministre,
the Vice President of Uganda, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Ambassadors, on behalf of the President Asali Assoumani, your brother, the President of the Union of the Comoros and the sitting President of the African Union, allow me to convey on his behalf fraternal thanks and also his apologies because he has a very tight schedule and was not able to be with you today. But he asked me to say that all the deliberations from this summit will be shared by him, and he will transfer this to the wider African Union family. Your Excellency, this summit comes at a crucial moment of the African Union because this year, 2023, is the year for accelerating the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Coffee that makes Africa proud and makes us happy to call ourselves Africans. In Africa, we say that a real African has the color of coffee, so coffee is beautiful. We are going to do all that we can so that we make coffee one of the flagship products, one of the strategic commodities of the African Union. So, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the President, he asked me once again to tell you that working in close collaboration with all the African Union organs, we shall have the obligation to ensure that this product is a flagship product because the figures speak for themselves and show that we must work harder and better so that we produce African and have an African consumption. So I want to thank you once again. Thank you very much.
We are now going to get the UNDP representative. UNDP is one of the partners and plays a lot in the coffee value chain development. We will be remaining now with one last speaker from the African Union.
Your Excellency, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellencies, heads of state and heads of delegation present here today, Your Excellency Jessica Alupo, Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, ambassadors and members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings to you all. On behalf of the United Nations Development Programme and indeed the wider United Nations family, let me say how delighted and greatly honored I am to join you on this occasion when Uganda hosts the second G-25 African Coffee Summit themed on transforming the African coffee sector through value addition. I wish to thank the government of Uganda and the Inter-African Coffee Organization for organizing this second G25 Africa Coffee Summit. Allow me to pay a special tribute to His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, for the great leadership in championing regional integration and the opening up of regional and global markets for Africa's value-added products, and for indeed promoting strategic investments in energy, transport, communication, human development to enable industrialization in Africa. We thank you for your untiring efforts. This summit is a much-needed opportunity to amplify the conversation about the role of intra-Africa trade in accelerating structural transformation and driving inclusive development in Africa. This meeting is especially important at a time when Africa is intensifying the drive for its rightful place in regional and global commodity markets. Intra-Africa coffee trade has the potential to power Africa's development, but this cannot be automatic. It cannot be an automatic process. We need the kind of effective leadership and mutually beneficial partnerships that this second G25 Africa Coffee Summit is mobilizing. We would like to therefore take this opportunity to call upon this summit to consider the following strategic actions to boost the coffee value chain and support export. First, we need to strengthen the coherence of policies and strategies to attract foreign direct investment here in Africa, as well as technology transfer into the regional value chains for coffee and other strategic commodities. We want to commend the government of Uganda for putting in place a comprehensive national coffee roadmap. The results are remarkable. We can see them, but we need more value out of that. UNDP is also proud to be partnering with the government of Uganda on the ongoing development of the national implementation strategy for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to position Uganda as a fast mover in harnessing the African market. Second, we have to work on scaling up cross-country investments in connectivity and high-quality infrastructure. Turning Africa into a real single market requires us to close important regional infrastructure gaps, both physical and the digital connectivity as well. The government of Uganda, of course, with the support of UNDP, is designing a digital transformation roadmap to scale up the country's capacity to harness the digital economy. We can, of course, do a lot more through partnerships to build the much-needed infrastructure to connect our countries better. Third is the urgent need to strengthen our regional value chains. The CFTA will not work without functional regional value chains, and we have great opportunities in the coffee belt in the 25 countries that we are looking at. How can we build these regional value chains and take back more of that value that is rightfully Africa's that we are losing at the moment? So we are looking at the Africa Continental Free Trade Area implementation strategy as an important tool, because it has identified coffee as one of the value chains in which the country has a competitive advantage, but also building the value addition capacity in this strategic sector will accelerate Africa's participation in the regional coffee and global value chains. We must strengthen efforts to promote the consumption of coffee in Africa. With the fast expanding middle class in most African countries, we have a great opportunity. We must capitalize on this to build regional value chains that keep more of the value of Africa's coffee in Africa, and this should apply for other products from Africa's vast range of primary products, as you enumerated, Your Excellency. This is the problem. This is the problem our entrepreneurs should be helped to tackle if we are to achieve an industrialization leap to significantly tackle the youth unemployment question, which is one of our biggest challenges today. In this regard, UNDP is supporting indigenous Ugandan startups, emerging businesses where we see promise in terms of adding value to coffee and working to help these, add value to coffee, but also penetrate the African market, Europe, America, and Asia. We are very proud of Ndiro. We are proud of Inspire Africa. We are very proud of Volcano. What they are achieving shows us that there's a huge possibility that we can make it, not in decades, but in just matters of years if we work with our entrepreneurs and build their capacity. Fourth, we need to build the capacity of small and medium entrepreneurs to harness the potential of the African market, strengthening the competitiveness and export readiness of SMEs in regional value chains through trade financing and business development services. This is very crucial. SMEs, small and medium enterprises, are the base from which Africa's industry should emerge, with the wider regional markets providing an important catalyst. But we must urgently get our SMEs ready. We must get them ready for regional trade, lest they get crowded out by capital. Big capital. We need that capital, but we need to grow with the small businesses as well. We have to explore ways to incentivize the clustering of our small and medium enterprises to potentially create much more bankable companies through cooperatives, joint ventures, partnerships, or other fit-for-purpose vehicles across different local and regional value chain. Fifth and lastly is working to relook at the financial sector, the financial landscape. Where are the instruments we need to drive growth of our small businesses, to drive industry, to deal with this big challenge of the imbalance in the global market? Where is that financing coming from? So we need to put efforts together through this summit to figure out, and it was good to hear from the Organization of Southern Cooperation that there is work going on in that respect. Through your impassioned speech, I'm encouraged that there are possibilities we can harness if we leverage the synergy from the South. Your Excellencies, I'm very pleased to note that UNDP is also working to provide technical support for the establishment of Uganda's export trade financing facility, which you have lent immense support, Your Excellency. Africa faces a high trade finance gap, which is about $82 billion US. This is a big limitation to harnessing the full potential of the CFTA. UNDP is working with the Presidential Advisory Committee on Export and Industrial Development on the establishment of a trade finance facility, and we hope that this can avail alternatives and innovative finance to help our emerging exporters, our local emerging exporters. As I conclude, would like to thank you, Your Excellency, Excellencies present, for your leadership in championing this collective action to strengthen the readiness of Africa's exporters, both current and prospective, to maximize opportunities in the CFTA. This will accelerate progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals and the African Union's Agenda 2063, working towards the Africa we want, the global powerhouse for the future. I'll reiterate my appreciation to the government of Uganda and the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization for inviting UNDP to partner in hosting the second G-25 Africa Coffee Summit. As the United Nations lead development agency, UNDP is accompanying Africa on this journey to socio-economic transformation. We're therefore happy to pledge continued partnership, continued collaboration, continued support from the United Nations and the wider United Nations family to the implementation of the CFTA and specifically to this initiative around coffee. There's a huge potential if we can really bring a balance in what's happening in the global coffee market.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to me, for God and my country.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for UNDP. So finally, Your Excellencies, let's hear brief remarks from the Ambassador Josepha, SACCO Commission in charge of Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment of African Union. And then from there, we'll be going to have the declaration read and we'll go into another signing ceremony. Once again, thank you for your patience. I hope we've made progress.
Thank you, the Master of Ceremony, for giving me the floor. With your permission, Excellency President Yoweri Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellency President Sahle-Work, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, our role model for women, Your Excellency Vice President from Tanzania and Uganda, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Ministers present, Honorable Jirma Amente, Chairperson of the AYACO, and Minister of Agriculture of Ethiopia, Ambassador Solomon Rutega, Secretary General of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, Excellencies, Ambassador, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I stand on behalf of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat. I bring you warm greetings from His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, who would very much like to be here, but due to pressing agenda, he was not able to make it. Then he requested me to represent him, and I proceed to read his briefing address because I have a panel tomorrow where we share what we are doing in terms of this thematic of coffee with the rest of the participants here. Let me first of all, before I go and pursue the statement of the brief statement of the chairperson, let me thank the government and the people of Uganda for the hospitality given to me since my arrival in this beautiful city of Kampala. It is a privilege and honor for me to address the opening section of this second G25 African Coffee Summit taking place in Kampala. Felicitations from His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat. Globally, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, globally, coffee is a multi-billion-dollar industry that experts predict it will continue to grow despite the two shocks that we are going through. The first one is the COVID-19 pandemic impact on our economy, and the second is the Russia and the Ukraine crisis. Those two shocks disrupted supply chain and eradicated past norms. Coffee continues to be the second most traded commodity worldwide. It was so said by the previous speakers. The International Coffee Organization Coffee Market Report of December 2022 notes that coffee exports are up in nearly all the regions. But what we said from that report, it is not almost all the region, because we have a comparative advantage in the global south. We produce coffee. The ecology of the global north cannot produce. So this is our advantage, really, to go and leverage whatever we have there and come with a very strong industry, which is coffee, because it is not competitive with the global north. Turning to Africa, coffee, which is indigenous to Africa, is an important commodity in many African countries, both in terms of export earning and generating income for small-scale farmers. It accounts to a primary source of income for more than 12 million of households in 25 African coffee-producing countries. Africa's shares of the world production has decreased progressively from 27.2% in the 70s to an average of 16% in the 90s, and today we have 13.1% in the 20th. Africa is currently responsible now for the 12% of the global share of production, with 3 countries that are leading our industry, which is Ethiopia with 39%, Uganda 23%, and La Cote d'Ivoire 13%, in line with the recovery experience globally. Export of all forms of coffee from Africa increased by 6.8% to, that is estimately 1.109 million bags in November 2022 from 102 million bags in November 2021. So we are really making some progress. However, much of the coffee is still exported in unprocessed form. I think, Excellency, you highlighted it very well in your own statement, your opening statement, that we really need to pass to change the narrative and get really the profit of what we produce. We cannot rely on raw material. Excellencies, you know that I used to be the Secretary General of this organization for 13 years, and that was our battle. We really want to sit on the table and start calculating the prices they are giving to our small-scale farmers. Beyond many of coffee problems, it is the continued low price on the farm. Many coffee farmers already operate well below the poverty line. So we cannot reduce poverty if we don't improve the prices and the livelihood of these farmers that are producing this coffee. This is a contrast to the billion made from the coffee consumption, which are highly concentrated in the US and Europe, compared to the revenue made selling this coffee in the retail markets. Growing countries receive less than 10% of the value when it is exported, and farmers even less than this 10%. We must transform the African coffee sector both through enhancing production to capture lost market share, and 2, greater value addition to ensure that African coffee farmers benefit from their labor. I hope this summit will also offer us guidance on how to attain these goals, and I'm sure tomorrow's section is to be more technical and lesson learned and to experience changes. We will have more information on the way forward. I also have some recommendations that I will present it tomorrow. To conclude, Excellency, the Commission is working hard on making the coffee coffee a strategic commodity was recommended on the first G25 in Nairobi. So we are working hard with the Secretariat of IACO in order really to operationalize this decision. We are also trying to work so that African Union, IACO becomes a specialized agency of the African Union. Due to the moratorium, things are going very slow, but we are going to speed, because when this process entered, there was no moratorium in African Union. So I think we have to proceed, and I count on your political really support for us to advance this decision and operationalize this decision. This was not, when it was submitted, the proposal was submitted, there was no moratorium at the African Union Commission. So I would also like to take this opportunity to invite all of you present here for two important events for the Commission, that the Commission and the Kenyan government is organizing. The first one, we are next month in September. From the 2nd to the 8th, we are going to organize the African Climate Summit and the African Climate Week in Nairobi. So I will invite all of you to participate, because this is the first African Climate Summit. So we have to come there and participate actively. I wish that all the 55 member countries come to this meeting and bring a common solution, because we know that climate change is really a big challenge for us to attain the goal of Agenda 2030 and as well as our Agenda 2063. The second event, Excellency, that I wanted to invite all of you, it is the Fertilizer and the Soil Health Summit that is taking place from the 5th and the 6th November 2023 in Nairobi. So I hope that you collaborate with me. We have a 10-year action plan for fertilizer use, and I have already sent to your capital ministers of agriculture that are here. I hope that when we have our STC, we are going to approve all these important strategies that are pending. So I would like to take this opportunity before I end to thank Excellency President Museveni for all the support you gave me when I was the Secretary General of this African Coffee Organization. Thank you very much. Muito obrigada. Asante sana. Merci beaucoup. Shukran. And Ebalianya in your language. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Give her a round of applause. And another big round of applause for all the speakers. We've concluded this session. I take this opportunity to thank Your Excellency and all the Excellencies for your patience and for your motivating statements on the urgent need to fully develop the coffee value chain. All your statements have been strong on issues of value addition so that we can earn more from our coffee products and resources, on the need to develop infrastructure that connects our continent to trade together, on the need to increase coffee production, on the need to adopt precision farming methods like irrigation, climate resilient practices, and investment in impactful research. Your Excellencies, for the next 2 days, our technical officers will have more discussions on how to put into practical interventions your statements. They will be discussing tomorrow with experts and other stakeholders, and Thursday. So at the end of the day, our prayer to Your Excellencies and all of you honorable ministers who represented your presidents is that the African Union adopts coffee as one of the strategic crops of the continent. We would want to see coffee come out in the agriculture agenda prominently, not just as any other crop, but as a strategic crop that can transform our economies if we can fully exploit its potential as challenged by our president. Let me now invite my colleague, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, who will read for us the declaration summarizing all our submissions. And as he comes, I also want to invite the chairman of IACO.
Moment. Excuse-moi. Français. Our young friend, the ambassador of the European Union, brought the logic that the reason why value addition must be done on coffee in Europe is because once it is roasted and ground and packed, it cannot stay on the shelf for more than 3 months. You heard him. That's what he was saying. That's how they reason. But I drink coffee here, made by Nescafe in Switzerland. I drink it here. Nescafe, coffee, what? I am now going to be 79 years old, and I'm perfectly healthy. So what is the problem? Why don't I say I cannot drink the coffee unless it is roasted here in Kampala near me? What is the logic? So I think we should be careful about the logic of our people here, our friends. Let's get a technical answer. Then there is the argument that, there is a preference for local blending. Okay, you tell us, we can blend it for you here. What is the problem? Those companies which blend using our coffee there can do it here. So I think the technical answer we need to answer is what happens? How does coffee deteriorate? How does coffee deteriorate in quality if it is roasted here and taken packed? What is the problem? After all, these beans travel all the time, and some of them are stored even. I hear they have, they keep, what do you call, stocks, buffer stocks of the beans for a long time. That's what I hear. So I think you need to take an answer to these excuses, because these are excuses. Please don't leave this unroasted. That logic must be roasted also.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the positive dialogue. We will continue with His Excellency, the Ambassador. And I hope the technical discussions will continue to look into that. And the EU, as I know, they will listen and they will also provide feedback. Honorable JJ, as I invite the chairman of IACO to come and be here for the following activity of signing the declaration. Thank you so much for listening to me, and sorry for the policing activity.
Your Excellency, President Yoweri Museveni, Your Excellencies, the heads of government, heads of state and governments, Your Excellencies, the leaders of the delegations here present, colleague ministers here present, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors and leaders of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my humble duty to summarize for you in the form of a Kampala Declaration what you've been saying in the course of this morning. So what I'm reading is a Kampala Declaration, a product of the second edition of the G-25 Africa Coffee Summit held today, 8th of August, 2023, here in Kampala, in Uganda. It reads as follows. We, the heads of state and governments of the 25 African coffee-producing countries, convened for the second edition of the G-25 Africa Coffee Summit in Kampala, Uganda, on the 8th of August 2023, under the theme, Transforming the Africa Coffee Sector through Value Addition, to marshal support for integrating coffee as a strategic agricultural commodity in the African Union in harmony with African Union Agenda 2063. This will give Africa the leverage to address the challenges associated with value addition. Concerned that whilst Africa is the birthplace of both Arabica and Robusta coffee, it only produces 12% of the overall worldwide production. That coffee production and productivity in Africa producing countries remains consistently low. Noting the inequality in the coffee value chain, in particular the global annual value of revenue from coffee in 2023 amounts to US $495.50 billion, whilst total revenue in Africa amounts to only 0.6%, which is roughly 2.8 billion US dollars. Recognizing that the 99% of African coffee is exported in raw form, resulting into the loss of economic benefits associated with value addition, thus depriving the continent of jobs and colossal sums of revenue earnings, reaffirming that the African continent free trade area to which we are parties creates a single African market that facilitates the 25 African coffee producers to trade freely with other African Union member countries. This will assist in the integrated trade of coffee among African coffee producing and consuming countries, underscoring the impending threat of climate change on the coffee production and the urgent need to invest in research and development of varieties which are resilient to harsher climatic conditions and resistant to coffee pests and diseases. We now here agree to 1. Support research in coffee value addition to enable innovation and development of new products, generate new knowledge on best practices, improved technologies, and studies on various resilient to harsher climatic conditions, pests, and diseases. 2. Support investment in value addition of coffee and its products and promote domestic coffee consumption. 3. Agree to vocational training in coffee for the youth and women for job creation. And 4. Agree to enhance access to finance for coffee value addition projects through the AU/Africa Free Trade, Africa Continental Free Trade Area framework and institutions, which include the African Development Bank, African Export-Import Bank, and African Coffee Facility Fund. We now therefore request that, 1, the African Union, Assembly of Heads of State and Government, endorse the inclusion of coffee as a strategic commodity in the EU Agenda 2063 at the next AU Assembly. 2, we request that the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization is appointed as an AU designated agency responsible for coffee to work with the African Union Commission and member states on the effective transformation of the coffee value chain in Africa as part of the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area strategy on boosting intra-Africa agricultural trade. 3, we request that the African Continental Free Trade Area private sector strategy that anchors the development of regional value chains prioritizes coffee value addition as a key deliverable in the aforementioned strategy. And finally, 4, request that the African Development Bank and the African Export and Import Bank provide dedicated financial resources to boost coffee production and enhance coffee value addition. We finally undertake to organize the 3rd edition of the G-25 Africa Coffee Summit in Tanzania in 2024, signed by His Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, Host Minister and Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries of Uganda, and the Chairman, Honorable Dr. Girma Amente, Chairman of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization and Minister of Agriculture of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, done in both English and French.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Kampala Declaration is being signed by the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries of the Republic of Uganda, the Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, with the Chairman of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, and is being witnessed by none other than the Secretary General of the Inter-African Coffee Organization and the Managing Director, Uganda Coffee Development Authority, and the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, here witnessed by the Foreign Affairs Minister of the Republic of Uganda, the Honorable J.J. Odong. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. This is the Kampala Declaration. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much, Chairman. And now I want to request Your Excellencies, just before we close, there will be a photo session, but we'll have the anthems in reverse order, and then we'll have the photo session, and the protocol team will guide Their Excellencies for the photo session. May I now request, ladies and gentlemen, that we be upstanding for the anthems. Please, and our heads of delegation, you will be ushered by protocol teams. And I do request as you make your way to the photo area, you will have a mask on, or a mask will be provided for you. As you get to the booth, somebody will be able to provide you a mask as you get to the booth. Please, protocol teams, handle our delegates. I request that the delegates remain in the room with the exception of our heads of mission and heads of delegations who are making their way, including our honorable ministers. Our honorable ministers, you'll also make your way. I'll also request the Secretary General of IACO and the Managing Director, UCDA, and the PSFU to join the stakeholders who are taking the photos. Protocol teams will handle the photo session. And please only be guided by the protocol team on your way there. A mask will be provided. We request our other delegates to remain in the tent. Delegates, you will remain in the tent. We will show you the pictures from the photo session, and please remain in the tent as we usher our delegates, our heads of delegation and their excellencies for this photo session. There'll only be 2 photos, and thereafter, dear delegates, we will be ushered to lunch, so please do stay with us in the tent.
Roasters and barristers, like passionate artists, treat Uganda's coffee as their canvas. They carefully extract its essence, revealing the hidden notes of chocolate, spices, and fruits. With every carefully crafted brew, they tell the story of Uganda's coffee, allowing its character to shine through and tantalize the coffee lovers' taste buds around the world.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll allow the excellencies to make their way. And as soon as they do that, both the exhibition area and also the tent below the garden where we are will be availed for lunch, and your protocol teams and also the ushers will be guiding you, ladies and gentlemen, to the
Summit hosted by Uganda. The summit will be held at Speak Resort Munyonyo from the 8th to the 10th of August 2023.
Heads of state from Africa's 25 coffee growing nations. It's time to listen, innovate, and invest in Africa's coffee future. Ignite the potential of African coffee. Organized by the Government of Uganda through the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries and Uganda Coffee Development Authority in collaboration with the Inter-African Coffee Organization.
And in talking news, MTN has improved on their daily voice bundles. You can now call across all networks for the same price. We've talked to several eyewitnesses on the ground, and this is what one of them had to say.
Amos, did you hear about the MTN daily voice bundles?
So, to join many more other Ugandans enjoying these MTN daily voice bundles, dial *100 *21# or use the My MTN app to start enjoying. Stay tuned for more offers from MTN.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations